Welcome to Beyond the Backlog podcast. We have our very own head of product, Matthew Edwards, sitting with us today, who's going to talk to us about custom software solutions versus off-the-shelf solutions. So what to approach and how to approach when choosing your CMS. So Matt, let's just start off simply. What is the difference between custom software and off-the-shelf solutions?
Sure. So I'll start with off the shelf. Off the shelf essentially means something that's already there, it's purpose built. So typically your off the shelf solutions will be somewhat more generic and they'll probably solve for 80% of the use cases. If we're talking something like a CMS, you'll have your generic content for, the ability to have a blog or a news page or an about page, the things that most people would be requiring. Whereas if you're talking something like custom software, that's more bespoke. That's where you're going to have some, requirements that probably aren't quite as usual for everyone to have, something that's a bit more out there and a bit more unique to, your business. And that's where custom software comes in because, not everyone's using it, therefore there are not that many solutions out there to solve your problems. And that's where you need someone to come in and make something tailor-made for your exact use case.
So apart from, having things tailor-made for the business and the business requirements, what would you say are the main benefits of going down the custom software route for business?
Well, it's exactly that. It's the tailor-made aspect of it, but it's also the fact that, you know, that's all you have really. When you have something that's quite custom, you can't really go the off-the-shelf route, or you have to go the off-the-shelf route with customization. So you don't really have any other alternatives aside from going the custom route if you've, got these unique requirements that, nothing out there on the market right now can solve for.
And then on the flip side, when would you say is it might actually be better to just go with an off the shelf software solution as a better choice?
So typically your off-the-shelf solutions have the benefits of economies of scale. So if you're thinking about, building something that's custom that only you will have, we've mentioned that the benefits are that it's bespoke for you. So obviously it can be tailor-made exactly for your requirements, and that's great. But to make something custom from scratch is a lot more expensive and time consuming than to take something that's already, there available and has the benefits of economies of scale, in which case, it's been sold to a lot of people so they can cover the costs and the margin a lot better, and therefore it becomes a lot more affordable for, the end user.
So typically, what would influence the budget between making these decisions is how much budget do you have, I guess, because custom being more expensive off the shelf, probably being maybe more affordable. So are there any particular industries or business types that you think benefit more from a custom built solution?
It's going to be your more bespoke, requirements. So typically, if you're an entrepreneur who's bringing out, some, I guess it depends on what the website is. If you're just talking like a blog type, solution, then off the shelf's going to get you there most of the time because there's nothing really cutting edge about a blog. But if you're talking that, you've got this SaaS, so software as a service type offering, so say, you just invented cryptocurrency, you're going to need something custom there from the get-go because there's nothing else on the market available. So that's, I guess, where it would come into play.
And what risks should companies consider when choosing to go down the custom software route?
So generally, unless you're building it with an in-house team, and you're getting an external party to build it for you, the risk is that, you're very much tied to that company. And if the relationship sours, then it can become difficult to have someone new step in and, pick up where the last sort of company left off, or, if you need to do continual upgrades or continual, feature development and things like that, it's risky being tied to a single vendor,
Yeah.
especially when it's your own sort of IP.
And can a business start off with a off-the-shelf solution and then later transition to custom software?
Yes, 100%. I think it will very much depend on the use case once again, but that is a route that people often take. So again,
And
it's
what does that process look like if someone does go that route?
I think you'd want to, or the benefits of obviously an off the shelf solution, as we mentioned, are it's cheaper and you have quicker speed to market. So if you're launching some kind of new product, new business, you want to go as quickly to market as possible so you can start generating revenue. And then as you start to get sort of a client base and want to start, adapting, adding more features and things like that, then that's when you can start to sort of build this custom layer on top of the out-the-box solution and then slowly start to, replace some of those out off-the-shelf features with your own sort of customized offerings.
Would you
And yeah,
say,
the route, sorry,
yes,
that's answer the route to take, I guess, is just one of you would start to you'd focus on like the most common aspects of your offering that can be solved by an off-the-shelf solution. You would, tailor make or you'd utilize an off-the-shelf solution for that, and then you'd start to transition to the more customized things on a per feature basis, I'd say.
yeah. And you're talking about, features and feature building and things like that. So what role would you say, and then we're also talking obviously in terms of what is expected for your audience and your clients, etc., like that. So what role would you say user experience and integration play in making the right call between either going custom or off the shelf?
It's very much, I think, going to be trying to quite often companies will try and use an off-the-shelf solution and then try and make that off-the-shelf solution fit whatever their requirements are. And it comes down to, I guess, how good of a fit it is to what you're trying to build. If you find that you're having to make too many sacrifices with off-the-shelf solution and trying to like almost retrofit what is there into what you're trying to offer, that's when it's sometimes better to go the custom route. When your requirements are a bit too bespoke and you're trying to tinker and tailor and change too many things and you're trying to like make all these little patches and changes and too many adaptations, that's when it becomes a bit more difficult to maintain, and that's when you're starting to make sacrifices to your end user and to your client. And that's when I would say it makes more sense to just build something custom from the get-go, because then you don't have all of that additional, unnecessary bloat and unnecessary features that may have just come along with the tool that aren't actually necessary to your exact use case.
And I know you've given a whole lot of tidbits and great insights in the past 10 minutes of this conversation, but if you had to give one piece of advice to a business leader who's facing the choice between custom or off the shelf, what would that piece of advice be?
That's a tough question. I think at the end of the day, you need to, yeah, it's a balance, to be honest. Obviously, you need to put your customer first. So that's where often I would always try and lean towards custom, because, as we said, custom, you can make the solution exactly fit whatever, your vision is for your tool, your software, your company, and things like that. But we all know in today's market, the reality is that that's not always possible. It's hard and it's expensive to build custom software. You might not always have the expertise. You might not always have the budget or the timeline to allow for it. So I'd say just focus on whatever your sort of core unique differentiator and IP is, and then try and customize that and focus on that. And if you can then build that on top of, some kind of off-the-shelf thing as a starting point, and then customize from there and make that sort of your key focus, then you'd be able to get the best out of, or the best of both worlds, essentially. And thankfully, with AI and everything that is these days, it's becoming easier to, start to build things custom from scratch, to iterate over, ideas and things like that. So it's a whole new world there for
Yeah.
business owners, entrepreneurs, and developers. It's exciting times ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Matt. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure whoever's listening will also find it extremely valuable in terms of how do you decide what to choose off the shelf or custom software. So thanks so much, Matt.
Thanks very much, Nikki.